You don't always grow with your friends. They're not always going to be around. Sometimes your friend group changes, you know? Sometimes while you're growing, you end up growing further apart from the people who you were once cool with. And in some cases where you're going, you can't take them with you. And in that case, you know, as brash as it may sound, it's the people who didn't make the cut, the people who didn't make it to the next level with you. And it doesn't have to be about making money. It doesn't have to be about jobs. It can literally be about ethics. It can be about ethics. Y'all don't have the same values anymore. They may value something that you deem not right, deem it as something you can't stand for, something that doesn't represent you. And we're talking politics, we're talking how they treat people, all these things. And then, it's an ambition. Maybe they don't want more in life. Maybe you want more. And in order for you to achieve more, you can't hang around as often. You can't bring them with you. So you focus on your goal and you lock in, which in turn leads you to being further away from them. All these things could be tied to people who don't make the cut. Not in a arrogant way, but literally, you grow apart. In my case, I've grown apart from a lot of my friends. You can even say I'm much of a, I'm a lot of a, let me say this correctly. I am a loner. Solo dolo, independent. I move on my own accord. It hasn't always been that way, but when I decided to stop following everything my friends do and actually do what I want to do, it led me to being on my own. Because all the things that I wanted to do, it wasn't things that they were into. And it's not like hobbies and stuff like that. It's literally about ambition and grind and things that you want to do and achieve in life. And then in some cases, it is politics. Um, when I was in Texas and I was broke and I decided to join the military, I just went. My friends didn't go with me, and I knew they weren't going to go. So I went and I did it because I needed to make more money so I could take care of myself and my family. And when I say family, it's my mom. Whenever she needed help, I want to be able to send her money. So if I couldn't do that, then I needed to do something. So that's when I joined the military. Um, Even in music, when I was making music, I wanted to make music with my friends and I wanted to come up with my friends. And slowly but surely, I realized we didn't have the same goals. We didn't have the same ambitions. I wanted to perform. I wanted to go out in concerts. I wanted to also spend money promoting and marketing online. They didn't want to do those things. They wanted to post it online. They wanted to record music. But when it comes to promotion and marketing and, going out in concert and performing songs and trying to get fans in that way, they didn't want to do that. So at some point I had to make a decision, which was easier after I joined the Navy, because at that point I was on my own. That if I'm going to do music, I'm going to have to do it myself. I'm not going to have anyone with me. And really joining the Navy was the beginning of me slowly realizing that in life, more than likely, I'm at the roll dolo in a lot of things that I do, and I'm not going to have my friends with me to do it. I realized that. And that was my first step into going into that. Because if I didn't join the Navy, I would have stayed in Houston with my friends. But I wouldn't have did much. I wouldn't have achieved much. I'd have been broke too. No fun. No fun at all. With that being said, yeah, I realized I had to go on my own. So I started that journey. And even then, as I have been doing music alone, I have almost 1 million streams. Most people can't say that. I've made at least 5 to 7 albums. Not many can say that. I even had a tour lined up. Not many can say that. A lot of things I was able to do, and I did them on my own. I didn't have people with me to help me out. Um, School-wise, my friends, some of them graduated, some didn't. I was one of the ones that didn't, and later in life, I finally graduated. But I wouldn't say that was really a deterrent on me being around my friends. My ambitions on making money and uh, making music and being able to take care of my family by, taking calculated risks like the military. Um, I was alone, plain and simple. Um, as I got older, once I got out the Navy, I had different friend groups in the military. Once I got out, there was only one friend group I really had out of everyone that I encountered. Like I don't keep up with anybody really that was prior military, except for the people that I was with on that last duty station. And even then, we started the Good, the Bad, the Salty podcast, and I said in the beginning, like, this could be something. This would be fun. Why don't we record our episodes, and why don't we record some like video episodes, like video podcasts? Why don't we upload those, and why don't we like promote it, do ads and things of that nature? And they declined. They declined. So I continued doing the podcast, but at that point, I knew it wasn't something that I truly loved doing because I couldn't do everything that I wanted to do with it. Even with the potential that I saw, I knew that I couldn't do everything that I wanted to do to make it pop because my group wasn't aligned. They didn't want to do the same thing that I wanted to do. They didn't mind doing a podcast, but they didn't want it to actually, move numbers. So, I did it. And then, I met my wife, and at that time, life basically took over, and I had a lot more things on my plate that I needed to take care of. So, I didn't have the time to dedicate to the podcast like I once did. And in 2022, I stepped down and I let Brown basically take over and run the show. And he's been doing good ever since. And then once, I guess, yeah, it was about 3 years at that point. 3 years later, and about May, June, I thought about, well, music-wise, I'm pretty good musically. I don't know if I really want to create music anymore, but I still want to be creative and do something. And I was like, well, I could do a podcast. Like, I feel like doing one. So why don't I just do a podcast and I'll just do it the way that I want to do it and promote it and put it out there and see if people will gravitate towards it. So at that point, I came up with the idea of the podcast, and, it was based on my life and what I was going through. And I was like, let me just sink my heels into this. And, I started the podcast. I was promoting it. I promoted, on TikTok. I had a video, over 900,000 views, thousands of likes, many comments. And, I was telling my story about how I had my suicide attempt and how I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And, it connected with a lot of people. And a lot of people messaged me and told me how much it meant to them that I talked about it, and how they, they're working and managing their own symptoms as well. And I realized, yeah, this is something that I can actually do. It's helping people. People are responding. It's helping people feel connected and not alone. So right then I was like, okay, this is actually, this could be something. So at that point on, that's when I really started dedicating a lot of time towards the podcast, the Hard Reset podcast, and, I'm trying to make it work and think of ideas and plan how I want to give it to the people to help people that are out there. And, I think it's been doing well. I keep seeing that in the world of podcasts, there's probably like 4 million or more podcasts that are actually created, and that there are only like 400,000 to 500,000 that are actually active or something like that. Or not even that, it's that 400,000 to 500,000 podcasts end the same year that they start. that the majority don't even make it to 10 episodes. So, I look at that and see what I built so far with the Hard Reset podcast, I'm like, I think we're doing okay. But not just that, I did it alone. I'm alone. So that happened, and then a friend of mine, I pretty much stopped communicating with them. I wouldn't even say it's politics. I would say it's human decency. Everyone knows what ICE is. Everyone knows what ICE is doing. And he asked me if I could be a recommendation for his job application to join ICE. And I couldn't agree with it. I have an Afghan wife. I have a Muslim son. So I automatically disagree with anything that pertains to them, let alone working for them. And I guess he couldn't see from where I was coming from, and I told him I don't agree. It's not something I can really ride with. And after that conversation, we haven't spoke since then. And this is someone that I knew for years, like since high school. But, values change. Ethics change, I guess. But you believe in, they may not believe in. So, if that's the case, that means I have less friends, and so be it. I still stand on my morals and my values. It's not something that I'm going to change on. I'm too grown for that at this point. At this age, I don't need many friends. I don't need a whole lot of people to agree with me. I don't need a whole lot of people to vent to. I don't need any of that, really. If I need a vent, I'll talk to my therapist. That's it. But with that being said, this just goes to show you, like, as I'm telling you all these things that I've been doing or have went through, not everyone's meant to go with you everywhere you go. And to think that people that you've known since, you were a little kid are going to grow with you. In some cases, it can happen. Especially if y'all on the same shit and y'all doing the same things. Of course it can happen. But if you have views or ambitions that lead you elsewhere, more than likely it's going to lead you elsewhere. You're not going to be around them. So you got to accept the fact that sometimes you're actually going to have to do things alone and be comfortable with doing things alone. You got to be comfortable with that. Because I myself, I'm completely comfortable with it. I can do everything alone. I don't need a person there to co-sign me. I don't need a person to sit there and back me up. I don't need anybody to do anything for me. I don't need anybody to do any of that for me. I can do it myself. And that's real. I'm Jeuse Kastoan, and this is Unseen Hours.